every time with Rob Brown breaking it all down. Yeah. SEC, sideline sports on my mind. Rob Brown calling game time, highlight shine, executive mind. Brendan Martin keeping Rob in line. Like, subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sideline sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Robert.
Got the band cranking up.
They have been they're working on all sorts of new stuff for the football season this year.
Yeah, man, football season
going on, so they're ready to showcase. They're going to put out an album, I think.
Well, I mean, in an album, as David Letterman used to call it. Remember the old question? After your 25th birthday, how many times could you remember going into a record store? We got to have them.
I got a whistle today for all of our contestants on our show because they get a lot of Dudley Dawson. You gotta watch him. Watch him.
Oh yeah, we got to do it. Look, hey, do us a favor. We are streaming live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, 9 channels all at the same time. Thank you, Brendan. Take a picture of those QR codes, log it in, hit subscribe, share it, like it, tell your friends about it. It's a great. Well, look, I'll tell you one thing. Those of you that are flying, when the wheels go up and you're flying from, Miami to Seattle, it's podcast city. We hope and pray that we are one of your selections. Keep us at the top of your list. All right, topics today. We're going to get into some recruiting today. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, will join us in a minute. High school recruiting matters. And if you're not doing it, you're setting yourself up for failure, because if you don't have the relationship with these guys and when they're in 9th grade, 10th grade, a year or two after they go to some other school, they get homesick, it's not working out, you're not going to have the relationship, the ability to go back to them and say, hey, look, man, we still got a spot for you. Come on back to Gainesville. Come on back to Oxford. Come on back to Fayetteville. And that stuff matters. A lot of people think you can build a program out of the portal. You cannot. It's going to be the same thing as what happened in junior college. You look at the programs, and I love Jackie Sherrill, and he'll be the first to tell you, 97 to 2000, Mississippi State had a great 4-year run, and they went so heavy in junior college, and then 01, 02, and 03 came along, and the wheels fell off. It's the same thing. If you go heavy in the portal, you're getting a bunch of guys who are drive-bys for the most part. Some of them will invest in your program, but if they're not invested, and what we mean by the term culture is, think about how you start your day. I mean, I'm up at 5:26 or 5:16. I have these funny alarms like airline times. I get up, start working out for a long time, and it's a culture because I know who I am. It's the same thing if you come to Florida and you play for John Summerall. He'll be the first one to tell you, if you don't like being pushed, and I mean pushed way out of your comfort zone, just don't come to Florida. I love that, and I respect that. My favorite coaches are right now, and I wish he was still coaching, is Urban Meyer, because he's a hard ass. He's my age. He comes from that mentality. He wins that's what did Bartu say about him? He doesn't matter. Bowling. I know someone who played for him at Bowling Green, a guy. Melvin Cole.
He was a little intense when he was at Bowling Green.
Yeah, but Melvin,
I needed to dial it back.
But Melvin played for him at Bowling Green. He's told me a lot about Urban Meyer wins everywhere he goes. Kirby Smart. Now look, he was a coordinator, but he wins because he got the blueprint 9 years. And his father, the late Sonny Smart down in Bainbridge, Georgia, was a high school football coach. Guys, it's a big deal. Just like, look at you. Do you think you didn't learn from your dad about this business?
Of course.
Yeah, that's my being
100%
devil's advocate.
Yeah, I'm just being an echo chamber for you, but I'm just saying, and it's so true because it matters where your environment, what you're around, right? Who you're raised by. We all know these things. This is not if you're a parent or if you're a kid or whatever, you understand that your environment matters. What you learn early on matters, right? And so sport is a small microcosm of all of that, right? So our world all get to see all these little stories, these little these little things that help us along the way in life and lessons and all these things, because sport is great that way. So you got to have a leader and somebody, and certain sports have a culture. The culture of football, is my point, is it's tough, it's rock and roll. And if you've ever been on a winning team, you know that team, your coach loved you and hated you, but at the end, you would die for your coach, because you believed that he was or she was in the fight with you, that they would do the equal amount of thing. You want to believe that coach is willing to take it on the line. You want to look at University of Florida. Billy Napier was always like, hey, we're rebuilding, we're rebuilding. If I was on that team, I always would have felt like, well, damn, what about me, dude? I'm still like, motivate me, right? Make me great. And the first thing John Summerall did was said, if we don't start winning, I'm going to get, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm going to get to the top of the swamp and I'm going to start screaming something, because I want to win now and today. It's a culture of winning. It's a culture of toughness, because that the season is a lifetime, and it takes so much to get there. And I think kids are not afraid of being coached hard. They want to win, because it doesn't matter. That's going to equal dollars. That's going to equal career. Everything matters. And I think that is so important. We see it every single day. And the coaches that want to be a player's coach, they just don't seem to recruit as well. And they don't seem to coach as well. They might be a great recruiter, but they're not a great coach when it comes to game time. You know what I mean? Because they've lost the edge of saying, I need you to go out there and bust through that and rip their heads off and go crazy for me and die on the field for me. Let the MFer go, is what Urban Meyer said. You have to just lay it on out there. It is a battle. It is a war.
All right, let me say this about players coach. To me, what a player's coach is not their friend that goes out drinking with them and stuff. Right. Good morning, Panhandle Rob. Love that guy. And also Trey Jordan. This is a guy I want to get on the show. He's like, where are you watching your football on 30A? He sells real estate down there. Oh, cool. Used to be one of our sponsors, Pimentos and Holiday Ham. Oh, cool. Also Perry Mason, Corpus Juris.
Perry Mason met Rebecca on an airplane.
Yeah.
And Rebecca told my sister Rebecca and told him about this show. And that's how Perry came to this show. So welcome,Ry. He's a great dude.
I love you. Citrus guy. Farmer.
Great citrus farmer. He's a great dude. Thanks
from Lake Placid, Florida, I believe is where he's from. But I'll tell you something. Here's what a player's coach is. It's not Mike McDaniel. Everybody said he was the future of the NFL. No, it's not. Trying to be cool and hip. That's BS. A player's coach is a coach that says, all right, I've been there, man. I know what it takes to win. I'm going to push you, but I'm going to give you every resource that you need. I'm going to get you better coaches to develop you, to get you. I'm also going to get academic counselors to help you get your degree, because you can make a living with your hands. You'll make millions with your mind. Hit the damn books. That's what a player's coach is. Like, you wouldn't want to go to a guy like Steve Spurrier or Urban Meyer or, coaches like Pat Dye and Shook Jordan and Bear Bryant, Vince Dooley, Johnny Vaught, Jackie Sherrill. Jackie Sherrill's one of the smartest guys you will ever talk to. Coached football for a long time, but like your dad in the early 90s, he saw the harbinger of things to come, of these super conferences where we're going. And I can tell you also, you being the son of a great sports writer, and the reason your dad is as smart as he is because he keeps working his brain out. And when you're around, your dad said one time they were in the press box, Dan Jenkins, great writer, was up there, and he kept trying to write a story, and he would wad it up and throw it on the floor. And I think your dad said, man, there's enough material wadded up on the floor to write a Pulitzer Prize winning piece. But you learn that from the tough people. And recruiting, no question, Kirby and John Summerall, and you look at Golish at Auburn and Silverfield, spent 8 years in the NFL and so he's at Arkansas now. And everybody, the expectations, I guess the disrespect of low expectations should bother you. I mean, if you're being picked last in the league, that should bother you. But motivations like drinking an American Coke with high fructose corn syrup, as opposed to the Mexican Cokes that I drink with pure cane sugar, it's much more of a leveling high. But you crash and fall. You go up and then you crash. I think in recruiting right now, if you think you can just patch tires up and put plugs in the dam, it's going to burst. You got to start, like Kirby says, we want to develop our own kids. We'll go into the portal, but we're going to be very selective and be extremely, like if you're not part of our culture and you don't fit here, we're not going to bring you in. It's just like if you're putting, if you're an architect and you're designing a house and you're using Charlottesville brick and you run out and you try to use a different brick, it's not going to look the same. That's not the culture. If you've ever been to Charlottesville, Mr. Jefferson's campus, there's Rhodes College where Matt Dean is. You got to have people that fit what you're doing, and the kids today are starved to be coached tough.
Well,
and the biggest lie is you can't do that anymore. They'll leave. Look, hit the button for them. Find out who the quitters are in practice instead of game day.
Well, and I think to bring this down to a little more of a macro focus in the SEC, Rob, the programs are answering the same recruiting questions, I guess, in a different way these days. Alabama, Georgia, can they keep stacking the elite depth? Can Texas and Texas A&M, can they turn the money that they have, and the brand and location into the control in the SEC that they always said that they can do? Can Oklahoma continue to recruit and impress everybody in the SEC, as we saw in baseball, right? Florida, LSU, Auburn, momentum. We just talked about Ole Miss and Tennessee, and we were talking about Tennessee yesterday, which is, are they our dark horse? As no one's really talking a whole bunch about them. And Yancey Porter's on to make sense of all of this entire thing.
And Yancey will, because he's in Lafayette County, Mississippi, up there in North Mississippi, in what we call the Memphis part of Mississippi. Yancey, man, Rebel Yell Hotline, folks, watch him, listen to him, as Chuck Oliver says, consume him Monday nights, 6 p.m. Central, Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, Super Talk Mississippi. It's everywhere. Yancey, you've been covering this a long time. It's like now Brendan and I and you and all of us, we're part of Court TV when we talk about college football now. It's like, do you understand all the legalese that's involved? But all that aside, it's summer. It's June 24th. Recruiting's going well at Ole Miss. Let's talk about what's happening, because that's how you build your team.
Yeah, man, Ole Miss right now is Pete Golding has always been a recruiting machine, right? Even back in his days at Alabama, they picked up the number 3 defensive tackle in the country yesterday and the number 4 defensive tackle in the country yesterday, Michael Turner and Shoemaker out of Mississippi. And they're expected to pick up the number 2 offensive lineman in the country Friday, and the number 4 offensive lineman in the country tomorrow, Antonio Berry and Moss, both out of Tupelo and Jackson, Mississippi. So that would give them the top 5 players inside the state of Mississippi. And more importantly, really building the trenches. As we know, the portal, you can live with it anywhere but in 2 spots, and that's on the line of scrimmage, on the offensive line and the defensive line. That's kind of like baseball. You rarely see good shortstops at the portal. In football, you rarely see really, blue chip status caliber players on the line of scrimmage. So you have to build within. I think if you look at the college football playoffs last year, the 4 finalists, 83% of the 2 deep chart for all 4 teams came on the line of scrimmage from their high school players, not portal. So Pete is really shoring up the future there at the line of scrimmage. Ole Miss has got a very deep defensive line this year coming in for the 26th season, but those guys are all expected to go early in the draft, or some are eligibility expired. So this is a very important class for the line of scrimmage for Ole Miss.
Yeah. Hey, I want to say something. Kenneth Maynor, I love this guy. Hey, email me, robbrownsidelines@gmail.com. Brown with an E. robbrownsidelines@gmail.com. I want to get in touch with you. This guy is a Gator, Yancey, East Carolina Pirate, ARG, and also a Penn State degree. We know he's very smart.
Look, let's look at what Kentucky, what Florida, and what Auburn have done this recruiting class. Right now, the dead period just started with this new wave of early sign-up period. The visits got finished this past weekend. This week is almost like the week before signing day. Traditionally, when it was back on the first Wednesday of February, after that dead period, everybody's lining up their players. You fast forward it now, now it goes into the end of June, where everybody's really stacking up. Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, all those coaches are really making their mark on the recruiting as well. The big surprise that everybody's talking about is Alabama, right? What's going on with Alabama? They're celebrating a player that's ranked, I think 1,200 in the country yesterday. just not Alabama-like, right? I don't think they have but maybe one blue chip in their class. I think they're ranked 67 in the country right now. Don't know quite what's going on there. I know there's some shockwaves there in Alabama. I have a feeling that they'll finish strong. It's not going to stay that way, but that's kind of the storyline right now to me. The storylines are, what Ole Miss is doing with their new coach, with Pete Golding, what Auburn and Florida and Kentucky are doing, especially Kentucky. You're not talking about a traditional blue blood, but he's recruiting his tail off over there. Yeah. Bluegrass land up there at Kentucky. And then on the other side is what's happening to Alabama.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you just said about Pete Golding. The guy, I know people in Tuscaloosa and said some of the crap that his kids had to deal with on the school buses over there. The guy's a hell of a coach. And he seems to me like he absolutely loves me. He's only 41. He's from Hammond, Louisiana. The guy can flat out recruit. You do not stay on Nick Saban's staff for 5 years if you're not elite, okay? So put that crap to rest. And also, and Yancey, there's some good material here that Brendan sent out there. The question is, Ole Miss is recruiting more like a program that's here to stay versus a spoiler. You've had 3 double-digit win seasons in a row. Look around the SEC since 2013. You know how many 11-win seasons LSU, and they're getting a lot of press. You know how many 11-win seasons they've had since 2013? One. Ole Miss has had 2 in the last 3 years. Ole Miss isn't going anywhere, are they?
Yeah, it's a very similar trajectory that Dabo had Clemson on 10, 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
When they started making their move and became a traditional blue blood. And, we'll see if they're going to stay that way. I think Dabo's had difficulties adjusting to this new portal NIL era. But, there's no doubt that the new rules in place, getting the NCAA out of the protection mode, so to speak, of putting everybody on probation that tries to get to that blue chip status is really propelled Ole Miss to where they are a blue chip school now.
Well, again, I'm biased. I know, but I've been there so many times. I go to Oxford a lot. You get a kid down there, and especially if he likes hunting and fishing. And good God Almighty! And there are lots of beautiful women there. It's just and academically, you get the number 3 accounting school in the country. By the way, if you live in the South and you want to make a lot of money, go to Ole Miss, get a degree in accounting, and then go to law school. They also have a joint MBA law program. That's where so many people are missing about what Ole Miss is bringing, and now that money's coming back to them. All right, here's a good question. Kenneth Maynor, a good barometer of the SEC is Mississippi State's playing at Minnesota. Yeah, September 12th up there in the Twin Cities. If the Bulldogs win over the middle of the pack Big Ten team, that says a lot. Your thoughts on that? And then we want to get to, bouncing around the league because, Yancey, I know you know Ole Miss, but you know the league really well. So I'm going to tap into your brain if that's all right.
Yeah, it's a critical year for Lebby. We all know that. I'm very bullish on Kamario Taylor, Mississippi State's quarterback. I think he's a difference of two to three wins. I really do. I think State's going to be very exciting on offense. How their defense is going to hold up, we're going to see. Kind of reminds me of the first year of Lane Kiffin where they couldn't stop anybody, but nobody could stop Ole Miss. I don't know if they're going to be quite that explosive offensively, but I do think State's going to be much improved this season. I think the Bulldog fans need to settle down. I think good things are coming this season. I do think that they beat Minnesota. I think they win 7 or 8 games this season.
All right. Blessed are the peacemakers. Remember a few weeks ago, I had you and David Murray on from Dogs Bite. Look, I do. I love Mississippi. I love the people down there. And, man, they've got college baseball's big. But college football, I still go back to October 4th of 2014. I was down in Lambert, Mississippi, had a great dove hunt. 6 of us killed 78 that morning and had lunch at Abe's Barbecue there in Clarksdale. And I'm watching that 11 a.m. game, Mississippi State just putting a beating on Texas A&M. And later to that day, unbeknownst to me, my son Wilson and some friends had snuck off to Oxford, and he was on the field after y'all beat number 1 ranked Alabama. But, man, let's talk real quick about Georgia. They've had 7 of those seasons in a row. And you think about Ole Miss beat Georgia last year. Ole Miss has beat Georgia 2 of the last 3 times they've played them. Okay. Yeah. Auburn hadn't beaten them since 2017, and that's Auburn's oldest rival. What's the appetite right now? I've got Georgia playing Ole Miss in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the SEC championship. That's who I have playing.
Yeah, I said last year that Ole Miss and Georgia could play a total of 3 times, and I missed about 1 game. I thought maybe they'd play each other in the SEC championship game, see each other again in the playoffs, and I think they're kind of headed that way again. We'll see. The game that concerns me the most is not Georgia, it's not LSU, it's at Florida. That is, if there's ever been a definition of a trap game, it's that Florida game at Gainesville. They're going to put every emotion that they could possibly put out in that LSU game, along with the fans, along with the media. And then they got to go to Gainesville. We saw what happened last time. Ole Miss had to go to Gainesville. They played their worst game of the Kiffin era. I think they had 6 turnovers. Dart had 3 interceptions there in the fourth quarter, let a very mediocre to poor Florida team beat them and knock them out of the playoffs. So, again, they're going to have a very elite caliber type defense this season, similar to that 24. I do like offensively where things are headed. I think the offensive line worries that maybe some had in the spring are settling down a little bit. Terez Davis, the left tackle from Maryland that redshirted last year, is really, really coming on. And I think that, I think they feel a lot better there at the offensive line. But that Gainesville trip is the one that I have circled as the game that I'm more worried about than any on the schedule.
Oops. Jeff Boone, let me make a correction. I was saying Georgia is Auburn's oldest rival. That was February 20th, 1892, Piedmont Park, Atlanta, Georgia. A crowd of 5,000. Auburn won 10-0. Piedmont Park is still there. All right, Yancey, Ole Miss. Here's another good question. Brendan puts out he does a ton of research for these shows. Is Ole Miss's secret weapon still that Lane Kiffin offense? And talk about, who's going to be running that offense. And, I'm going to use it Exhibit A. When Mike Leach passed away, that was a sad day. And then Zach Arnett, defensive coordinator, becomes head coach, and he scraps the offense. You're not going to see something like that at Ole Miss, are you?
No. That's why they hired JDB to come back. That was theirs. Co-offensive coordinator, the first time in Lane for 3 years, went to East Carolina. He's going to have some new wrinkles in it. Is it going to be a total revamped offense? Not at all. And then, Joe Judge is kind of the rock of the staff. He's quarterback coach there. I think he's probably the most underrated coach at Ole Miss, along with Randall Jordan, the defensive line coach. I think it's going to be very, very similar to what you've seen these past 6 years. I think the biggest concern from everybody is, that pre-snap reads, right, that Kiffin was so good at. But it didn't seem to be much of an issue there during the playoffs. Those 3 games there still were very effective on offense. But if there's anything from the outsiders that they're looking, is like what happens, when that shot clock gets to 30, the play clock, not basketball, but when that play clock gets to 30, where Kiffin could send those plays in and he was seeing what the defense was giving them. I think that's the biggest question mark going forward.
All right, so defensively, when you've got Pete Golding as your DC, did a hell of a job, but now he's going to be your head coach. But he was head coach those 2 playoff games, and Ole Miss, the 3, and because they got to the Final Four and they were so close. I mean, so damn close to winning and playing for the national championship. Kind of talk about his team, because when he was at Alabama, we know Nick Saban was involved in the defensive game planning, and he learned a lot from him. So there's a lot of carryover, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, we all saw what happened in that Miami game. The reason Ole Miss lost is they got beat in the trenches there on the defensive line. They didn't have enough depth, and they've had depth for years there on the defensive line. And as I told you before the season started last year, that the starting 4 was as good as anybody in the country. But after those 4, there was a gap, and that's where he really hit the portal hard this year. Brought in some really good high school players as well for them. Brought in 5 more defensive linemen in the portal. They feel like they're going to be 3 deep, very salty, not much of a drop off from 1, 2 to 3 string there on the defensive line. And then linebacker, I think they're going to have the most improved linebacker core in the country. Secondary, I think they're going to be night and day better, and they're much deeper at corners. So defense is where Ole Miss really made their hay this year in improving the team. I think it's going to be back in that top 5 defense like we saw in 24, and they learned, where their weaknesses were in that Miami game, and that's just being able to sustain, stopping that run time after time after time again. We saw that pop up at Georgia too, right? Yeah. Georgia wore them down in the trenches in the regular season meeting at Georgia. So their 2 losses last year were due to the lack of depth on defense, and they feel like they shored up that problem.
All right, so you think about Joe Judge. He was one time head coach of the New York Giants, and he's completely lost to most people. I'm glad you said that about him. All right, so another thing, looking at season ticket sales, growth of your program and all like that, Ole Miss is hotter than a habanero ghost pepper, aren't they?
Yeah, man, everybody's really excited what they're going to do with the North End Zone Business District. Now it's going to be an entertainment district like we see at the Battery with the Atlanta Braves, and they're kind of starting that. It's going to be about a $2.5 billion addition over there, not only with the stadium.
Say that again.
The final product's going to be about $2.5 billion that they're putting into the North End Zone District. They're going to house bars and restaurants, and it's going to be very similar to the Battery, what we saw there in Atlanta. There's going to be an entertainment district connected to the North End Zone. They're going to add to the North End Zone, add suites all over the stadium. But it's going to be private equity funded. It's not going to be through Ole Miss. They're going to have a 99-year lease through that property there in that North End Zone district. So the bids have already gone through. We're waiting to see who got the winning bid on the very first stage of the project. The $2.5 billion is not going to be the very first stage. It's going to be increments of 3 different increments. So, but it's going to be about a 5-year plan. But I think that's the biggest excitement is, kind of bringing an entertainment district, like you see at the Battery with the Atlanta Braves there at the Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. And it's the plans and what I've seen of it, it's going to be like nobody else in the country.
No, there's not, because I mean, our daughter just moved. Sadly, she lives 0.97 miles from the Battery, and I could walk over there. And if I was overserved, I could walk back home to a Braves game. But the Battery is a revenue cash cow.
Yeah,
and you're talking. Florida just announced $1.45 billion around
stadium.
Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, the Swamp, Steve Spurrier. There is not anything else like that in college that I know of. And I'm going to ask John Hartwell tomorrow. He's now business development director with Goodwill, GMC Architecture, Goodwin Mills and Cates out of Birmingham. And they're doing that kind of sports architecture around the country. I don't know if they got that job or not, but
the Ole Miss is not unique. They're starting. Mississippi State's doing a development around their stadium, entertainment type of district. I don't know if it's to the scale that Ole Miss is doing, but you're going to start seeing colleges do this. And the infrastructure, really what's going on, a lot of it's Oxford, Mississippi. There's so much money moving to Oxford from places as far out to California and New Jersey, and just, kind of what we saw with Austin, Texas, what happened after COVID, and so much money moving over from California. You got a lot of money moving to Oxford, and a lot of people want their piece of the pie in this athletics program.
Well, it is. And I mean, there's no question the money that $2.45 billion, you were the one, remember about 5 years ago, you were ahead of the curve when you said Ole Miss had $350 million set aside for some renovations on Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Kiffin said, hey, hold on. We need that money for other stuff. Speak quickly to the impact of Keith Carter. Is he the best AD Ole Miss has ever had?
I mean, he certainly headed that way. Glenn Boyce, too, the president. It's a 3-handed wheel right now for Ole Miss with Keith Carter, the AD, Glenn Boyce, the president, the chancellor of Ole Miss, and then obviously Walker Jones, the head of the collective. That's been so innovative and forward thinking, and getting that collective, the Grove Collective, really kind of ahead of the curve than everybody else in the country. So the alignment is there with Ole Miss right now. And I think it's brilliant because, that $350 million at that time, which was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, they were putting on into the home side of the stadium totally rip it down and redo it and make it nicer. And then NIL came, right? So why not let private equity firms come in here and spend the money so you still have the money for NIL? Let them spend the money in the stadium. They can have leases on the land there, build them hotels, restaurants, bars, clothing stores, business districts around the stadium. They can make their money in that way, collect some money for the suites, let them spend the money on the stadium renovations, and then the university and the fans can spend their money on the NIL.
Well, that's where we're going. Yancey, look, man, I know you got a busy day. You also have a great magazine, Oxford Magazine. Let people know how they can follow that, subscribe to it, and be a part of it, because like I say, I go down there, and I was up in Fayetteville in October of 24. God. I mean, my wife was like, I mean, if I hadn't have grown up an Auburn fan, I'd have been like, where do I sign? These college towns are where everybody wants to be, and you tell the story like nobody since William Faulkner about Oxford.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's not only Oxford. I mean, I took my kid over there to the Supers for Auburn, and what they've done to that downtown area. It looks night and day from what I've seen 10, 15 years ago. It's, you know, it's amazing what all of these universities are doing and with the infrastructure, the cities around them. But the Oxford Living magazine is not a subscription-based magazine. It's just automatically delivered to the 27 highest value neighborhoods in Oxford, Mississippi. And we market firms, any business, through print, through digital, through listings, connecting with the search engines, SEO, video, radio, any which way you want to slice your business. We do it here at the Oxford Living. You can give us a call at 662-801-5055.
You look like you're in Palm Springs, man, in a resort back there. By the way, is anybody doing anything with the now vacant Beacon building?
Yeah, it's like everything else. They're going to become condos on top and commercial businesses below. That's just the way it's going.
All right, Yancey, thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us, man. Absolutely love having you on, and I'm glad you got your number out about the magazine, because I'm going to pick up a copy when I'm in Oxford next week, and I want to go to lunch with you on Tuesday when the Tallahatchie Grill has the gumbo, okay?
The gumbo. Everybody have a blessed day. God bless.
You too. Dudley, man, we were talking about, I had no idea. Yancey just said they're going to do $2.45 billion. It's private equity funded around the Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. And I'm telling you, people, I think what we try to do on this show is open people's eyes to what's going on these campuses. And, you know, and we're at SEC, but again, we don't live in an echo chamber. There's a lot of other schools we talk about. And I'm hearing Arkansas State University in Jonesboro is getting a vet school. There's only 29 of them in the whole country. There's 2 in Canada. And, I mean, that's going to change Jonesboro on a level. I think at a minimum, it's $500 or $600 million just to start a vet school. That's why Kentucky sends their students down to Auburn. They always have. But Dudley, first off, good morning, Auf Wiedersehen, guten Tag, buenos dias. How y'all doing? How you doing? You're muted. Dudley, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Can you hear us? Okay.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was going to try sign language. Okay.
Yeah. First of all, that's it. Love that bit of news about Arkansas State. As you know, I grew up just about 30 miles from there. Went to that campus far more than I did the University of Arkansas before I got to college. So I have great affinity for Arkansas State and the people over there in Jonesboro. Things are going well over there, and I've got some people in my family who are vets, and one just finished up vet school at Missouri. I'm sure she would have much rather gone to Arkansas State, but
wow,
Mississippi State. But it's a pretty cool deal, and you're talking. The big thing here today is around noon. Everybody's going to find out what the name of the stadium is going to be from here on out. Thanks to a big booster letting it slip yesterday on a radio station in the Buzz in Little Rock.
103.7 The Buzz. That's where our friend Wes Moore is. Moore Sports. Well, can you tell us who the sponsor is? Is the last name Dawson?
It is definitely not. Maybe we would have put in a bid after we get the daughter in Colorado married August 9th. All of our money is going toward that. It's kind of her own NIL thing.
Yes, there you go.
So looking forward to that wedding, and for a variety of reasons. Number one, I like the dude. If I didn't like the dude, I wouldn't be putting all this money into it, and all that. But it's an exciting time up here. As far as the naming rights, I'm not comfortable right now. So I think I know who it was, but as soon as I go out there and say, you know how I do. I don't traffic in rumors, and I don't have to be the first one to say it. So
well, and Vince Ferrara is with us right now. Another one of our favorites from Tampa, Florida, covers the Vols like nobody. Now, the morning show, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, folks. Put the Animal 99.1 FM app on your phone. I try to do this with all of our guests so I can hear what they're talking about and show respect to them and also help them grow their brand, because they damn sure help us grow ours. One more thing, Yance.
Just one more second. I'm going to slide over there and shut that door. The dog has now come in, thankfully. So, that there's traffic going by. Let me just slide over there and shut that door.
Slide on over there, and we'll bring in old Vince Ferrara from Knoxville. Vince, Tampa will be here. I'll be down there the 19th through the 23rd or the 24th for Media Days. I am fired up about going to Tampa. I've been down there several times. It is one of the coolest cities, Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. When I graduated college, one of my fraternity brothers' older brother was the assistant DA in Pinellas County there, Clearwater. Mm-hmm. And, man, that was back during the Miami Vice times. I mean, the stories that he told. We went out in the Keys fishing, and I still will never forget crossing Alligator Alley, and there wasn't a single gas station. And I kept saying, what happens if you run out of gas? You know what he said? Gatorbait.com. I'm kidding. No. Vince, how you doing?
There is one. They put a little pullover stop area.
Nice.
A rest stop in there. I think it might even have like a Dunkin' Donuts in there, if I remember correctly. So there is at least one stop along the way in Alligator Alley to go from east to west in South Florida. But anyway, great to be on with you guys. And Tampa, the area where those hotels are is Channel Side in Tampa. And if anyone goes down there, you will love it. It's great hotels. There's two media hotels, but where everything is happening there at the main hotel is fantastic. So right there on Channel Side. So you just walk out and you're going to be right on the water there. A lot of restaurants and bars and shops and stuff that will be right there at Channel Side. So you'll enjoy it, and it'll be here before we know it, and fast paced. And Tennessee gets kicking in day one. Last year they were on a Tuesday. They've kind of run the gamut in days of the 4-day event. But I get anyone's frustrations in it being in Tampa, just like when it was in Dallas, a little bit closer to Dudley and a lot of you guys that are a little bit farther west. But I mean, it'd be nice if it was in a central location every year to let more media go. As expensive as the trip is, especially if you want to do broadcasts on Radio Row, which they're not calling Digital Drive because we're in a new broadcast world, that it's not affordable for a lot of radio stations. A lot of the people that Rob you either have on the show or you compliment about what they've meant to sports journalism and broadcasting. A lot of these stations can't afford to go to Tampa. So what's going to happen is you lose a lot of the hardcores that are invested in the SEC, promote the SEC on a regular basis. They'll be replaced. They'll have plenty of numbers in terms of media there that they can brag about, but it'll be more the local and regional, but they'll be there just for different parts of it, as opposed to the way it used to be where everybody would be there all 4 days and it'd be a big event. You'd have the same people all the time. You're kind of losing that now with them, putting it out to these bidders on each extreme, west and east.
Well, I will say this to everybody. I'll be down there, and I'll help anybody if they need somebody to call in or whatever like that, be on their show, because you help us out tremendously. And executive producer Brendan Martin and I will be there. And I am fired up about it, but whatever I can do to help, I will be glad to do it. You're going to be there because Mama Ferrara lives in Tampa. You were born and raised in Tampa. By the way, saw you on Twitter yesterday. Coolest traffic stop I've seen. It was a mother goose and about 8 goslings. If you like hunting Canada geese, by the way, you got to get a tea time nowadays because they're not out in the rice fields like they used to be. They're just not. But that was a cool picture. I want to go back. Both of y'all are baseball junkies, and also y'all know soccer as well. This World Cup, my son-in-law, one of his friends, Sam Chun, played for the Korean national team, and now he's a broker with these big. I think he's in charge or involved with the matches in Mexico as part of the World Cup. But this soccer is cool. Every kid in America plays soccer through 4th grade. I played through 9th or 10th grade, and I'm too big of a goof off. I made the varsity the first day, and the coach said after 5 days, "You're too big of a clown, Brown." So I was the fastest kid out there, he said, but he goes, "You got to focus." So I'm trying to focus. But both of y'all know soccer as well. Dudley, isn't it cool? I always say this every day. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We're the most blessed people in the history of the world, and go out and find ways to help other people. But it sure is nice when the Tartan Brigade or the Viking, that's going to be all over college after the 1984 Olympics with Peter Ueberroth in LA Coliseum. The wave became popular. I'm ready for the Viking. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm Johnny come lately to soccer. I've been into it for about 10 years now. The other 50 years, didn't know much about it, but now I correct people if they say and they're on the field. I'm no, man, they on the pitch, and it's 0-0. It ain't 0-0
on the pitch.
I act like I know a whole bunch now, but it's I love the World Cup. I have been interested. I guess this is the third one that I've been interested in. I've never had a better experience though than last Thursday night on mine and Petra's anniversary. Emma Street, the local haunt with some places here in Springdale, and Mexico was playing, and there was a bar there that had all the Mexican fans watching the game, and that was a whole new experience for me. They watch it a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I really love that. And it's fun that soccer has taken hold and become what it is. And I'll be in front of a TV at 9:00 tomorrow night, even though that game doesn't really factor into moving on. But it's like anything else. I mean, I got the 250 shirt here working, USA pride in just about anything,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know soccer like my daughter and son-in-law and my kids. I mean, but I think it's the 3rd most popular sport in America because we were talking on the Lowdown with Lauren Meadows on this channel last night. I think you got NFL, which I hate to say it, but they don't care about anybody but the NFL, college football, and I think you've got soccer now. But man, these crowds are the way they watch a game. I remember being in Dublin one time on a Sunday afternoon. There's an old saying about the food over there. If you lead a good life and you go to heaven, the British will be in charge of the administration, the French in charge of the cooking, the Germans in charge of the police, the Italians in charge of the arts. If you go down below, the English are in charge of the cooking, the French in charge of the administration, the Germans in charge of the arts, and the Italians in charge of the police. It's an old joke, but I'm telling you, that's why the whiskey's so good over there. But the soccer crowd in Dublin that morning, it was kind of scary. And I'd already started the morning off in Belfast as I took a train down to Dublin. But Vince, soccer. Both of y'all are Swiss Army knives when it comes to sports. But comment on, do you understand what's going on? Because let's say I'm Joe Sixpack, Floyd R. Turbo American in Platte River, Nebraska, and I'm watching on the color TV.
I love soccer. I always have as a kid. It's something I connected with my dad. He's Italian, and growing up, Italy was actually good at soccer. We were the best in the world. That is no longer the case, where they can't even make World Cups anymore. But it was viewing time together. Soccer and wrestling were what my dad and I would watch a lot together, and so I always have that romantic emotional connection to it. But I just enjoy it. I follow it. the path to the World Cup qualifying, all that kind of stuff. Understand the English Premier League. There have been 30 goals scored by players in the English Premier League, and Manchester City has the most players.
Boo, boo. Man, you guys, so boo.
I'm not a Man City fan. I was just putting the number out there. So
well, I got to react. If you said the Cubs, I'd have booed too. So.
And by the way, Vince, may I make a quick correction? This just brought to us by Panhandle Rob. Mm-hmm. Is wrestling the same as wrestling? I just wanted to ask you that.
It is not the same. Wrestling was back when everyone thought it was real. Now we understand what it is. Right. We understand that it is choreographed, but it is athletic, and you take live bumps, as they say in the industry. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. But I love it. I follow it. I enjoy it. And you know what's cool is that these venues not only are packed, but we're hearing so many stories about people from all over the world and how well they were treated by Americans, and how different that is than how it's portrayed through the media around the world. Because you hear the stories of not letting people over the border and price gouging, all those things are put out there. But then the reality is there are an awful lot of really good people, welcoming people in this country that understand that we're a melting pot. So I just love the way they've blended in, and they recognize that there's still some good people out there. And those crowds are really good in the MLS too. So there's a lot of players in the MLS on a lot of these teams around the World Cup. And hopefully the U.S. can continue to have success, and then continue to grow the sport even more to those that are kind of casually jumping in along the way.
And my first real thing with it, that we used to get the two kids running up and down the field at 5 o'clock, so they'd go to sleep at 7. That was the exercise and getting them going on that. And then I realized that there was a lot more to it than just running up and down the field. And learned a few rules, and we're actually about to have our own MLS team up here in Rogers, who has more money than they know what to do with. Building a stadium. But it's only be like 6 miles from me, so I'll be there.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun, and I tell you, my friend Michael Jordan and Angie Galuli are over in Italy right now. They're getting back today.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Not name drop by Rob.
MJ, this is the great bond salesman and great duck hunter. But he's over there. They're over there for Angie's daughter's wedding in Firenze, Florence. And I said, what a fun game I like to do when I travel abroad is see how many names I see in those countries where I am of my friends back home. And I can tell you from experience, traveling all over Italy, I felt like I was in Memphis. There's so many of my friends are Italian. And my dad said, boy, nobody in the world loves life more than the Italians and the Cajuns. And if you get them together, I don't know what we'd do. We'd have so much fun. We couldn't stand it. But I got to tell you, when you travel to Italy, oh my God. I mean, not only the women beautiful and the food, the people, and by the way, their pizza's not like ours, but it's incredible. But I'm getting so wound up about this because I'm so excited having y'all on this show. And thanks all of you watching. Vince, you've got some awesome notes on Tennessee, and then we'll go back to Dudley's notes. But it's summertime. We're kind of freewheeling. We don't have as much structure, but God, I love this stuff.
Yeah, and congrats for maybe the first ever Memphis and Italy comparison on this show or any show.
Got a lot of Italian friends in Memphis, man. I mean, my God, I love them, and they are the best people. They are the best people you'll ever meet. And I saw my friend Jeff Heimbach. I was in the train station in Germany, in Munich, taking a train somewhere. 8 pages of Heimbachs, Heimbach, Gunther Heimbach, Ludwig von Heimbach, and then there's Jeff Heimbach.
It's Rome and Bluff City or sister cities, right?
That's right. That's right, Vince. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I just thought that was funny. But just a couple of things real quick. It's big portal season right now. Is certainly Dudley's following it with baseball and softball right now. And, for Tennessee baseball, they've had 16 players leave. 7 of them have found new schools, including a number of them in the Southeastern Conference. Braden Krenzel right there with Dudley at Arkansas, and Jay Abernathy, who was Tennessee's starting center fielder or second baseman at times this year, went to now national champion Oklahoma, which was amazing. And then and also Ethan Moore, a freshman infielder, going to Missouri. So these Tennessee players are landing in some good spots, but Tennessee's bringing in some good players too. Good emphasis on left-hand pitching. They have several in the portal. Wyatt Hanoyan, a great player, outstanding young player from Air Force, switch hitter. Tennessee's added him, and then Ricky Ojeda, terrific pitcher with the Anteaters of UC Irvine. But the thing is, some of these guys, and I'm sure that's the case with some of the portal guys and targets for Arkansas and other power programs, you bring them in, you get them in as commits, but then you got to watch the draft because you could lose them there just like you could lose a number of your signees.
Yep.
And then you have the MLB combine going on right now. And I'm sure there's a bunch of Arkansas guys there. There's a bunch of Tennessee players and signees there as well. And Tennessee has one Trevor Condon that's there that it was one of the standouts at day one. They have Jared Grinlinger, who was Trent Grinlinger, one of the top freshmen in the SEC. His younger brother could be a top 15, 20 pick in the draft. So that's another thing. It's so crazy with these rosters for baseball, especially where you have outgoing portal players, you have incoming portal players, you have signees coming in, but wait, some of the portal players could go in the draft, some of the signees could go and sign in the draft. They're coming from all different directions, but just craziness with the portal. So, and then Nate Ament taken in the draft. I know the top two, Arkansas and Tennessee from the SEC, and Darius Acuff, Nate Ament, top two SEC players taken in the draft. Ament landing with the Bucks after the Heat picked him. And then there could be two more in Jacoby Gillespie and Felix Okpara. Probably will go somewhere in the 40s. I think both of them will be maybe not all stars in the NBA, but I think they will have roles because they're both really good, versatile pieces that I had really good combine and pre-draft processes. So could be three from Tennessee in the draft total after tonight's second round.
All right, back to Dudley, and then I'm going to come back on that over and under with great sports writer and a guy who helped us start this show was so kind, Jimmy Himes. He is such a good guy. But Dudley, Arkansas notes that we don't maybe know about, but there's always a lot of stories. And the podcast world better get ready for Dudley Dawson and his music. It's going to be incredible. The band, Brendan said, is working. Yes. They're going to release an album at Peaches Records.
We've got something coming in a couple of weeks. Look forward to it, everybody. But I tell you what, it's becoming a running joke on this show about Dave Van Horn's job status. And, I'm being sarcastic about that, obviously. But I remember 10 days ago or so, they were saying Arkansas's not doing anything. They're just going to be all at number 16. Time has passed him by, needs to fire the assistant coaches. Then, we fast forward here and even before last night's big pickup of TCU catcher Nolan Traeger, Arkansas had the number one portal class according to 64 Analytics, and they have loaded at each position. As Vince said, they've got to wait through the draft with some people, but I think they've put people in positions that if somebody does go, they're still going to be okay. But it is. It's softball has done a great job in landing five portal pickups that will, I don't want to say they're going to come in and lead them to another College World Series. I'd like to see them in person play before, but in terms of ability and what they've done at previous places, it sure looks good there. Now, again, as we said, the big thing to hear today is putting the naming rights on the football stadium. That's going to generate more income, which is all you have to do these days in college football. You've got to run with the Joneses and the Browns and all that, and be able to get it taken care of. And that's another movement for them. The other thing I would say is that I'm frozen. Another thing that I would say is that each time it seems like somebody wants to push a coach or push an athletic director or something to the side. Something comes running to save things. And, we're now going back to that September speech at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Was it smart as all get out for him to say that? Everybody would have landed on coming off the top rope on him, including me. I was thinking, you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind, but it sure has turned around, and there's a lot more money in these programs now than there was then. And I think that he'll have a big old smile on his face today when he announces this, and he's to get the.
I remember talking to people saying things, and there was a message in the madness when Pat Dye first got to Auburn. He said, I was looking around the locker room, and he pointed over it. He goes, "We ain't gonna win with players like that and over there." And that was Lionel James. He motivated him, 5'7" running back out of Albany, Georgia, Daughtery High School. Vince, I love that, Dudley, and I think I'm just curious if chicken tenders are on the menu for the reception today. I don't know, but anyway, Vince, you got a cool one.
Everywhere, every time.
That's right. I love me some chicken tenders. Vince, yes.
Razor nuggets.
You had a conversation with Jimmy Himes, great sports writer, just a good man. Let's talk about it. We got a couple of minutes.
Yeah, Jimmy is retired, but he is go-to in terms of fill-in host. John was out yesterday, and so Jimmy Himes, the Hall of Famer and the long-time hosts of this show that I'm on for many years, and we are able to call on him to fill in on the show. So very fortunate for that. So we got to spend a good portion of yesterday's show talking SEC football. And so we decided, because Jimmy and I both are kind of geeks at it, just geeks about this stuff, kind of like you guys are, and a lot of people watching, over under win totals from BetMGM. So we differed on 2 of the 16. So maybe next week we'll spend some more time on it. Just on Tennessee, I'll throw that out there. Tennessee was 7.5. And we both went over on that. Not drastically over, but I think this is a 7 or 8 win team, so we both went with 8 for Tennessee.
All right, and we will.
I'm curious, did you have 4 or 5 for Arkansas?
We both went under on Arkansas. Sorry about that, but
no. I mean, I don't care. You don't pay me anyway. I'm hopeful for the fans, but
right, yeah.
But, as you know this stuff. Can't.
I tell you, I get a lot of compliments on both of y'all, and they say those guys are great, but they're not fans of their schools. They're journalists, and you have to be that way. You have to be. If you're a judge, I always say this: I would fire my own children quicker than any other employees in a family business because I expect more out of them. You know what I'm saying? But man, God bless you. Thank both of y'all more than you know for sharing your time with us. Text me, and Brendan and I will do whatever we can to help grow your brands. But we just don't ever retire. I mean, y'all are young. We're all young. But the information, and I love the comments from the viewers out there. I got it. Kenneth Maynor, Rob Brown with an E, ROBBROWNE, sidelines@gmail.com. Send me an email. I want to talk to you. I know you've tried to reach me. I don't know how to do LinkedIn. My wife does, but I'm all over social media. But Vince Ferrara, Dudley Dawson, will do it again next week. People say, what do you talk about in the offseason? Honestly, do you think all these coaches send their players and coaches home for the summer and say, y'all stay in shape this summer now. When you get back here in August, we're going to run you on that mile. You better be in shape. That ain't how it works. It is all the time. It never feels like work. This is so much fun, especially when you got an executive producer like Brendan Martin. So most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the world. Hear what other people are saying about us. And nobody in the world loves life more than the Italians and the Cajuns. Put them together, we'd have so much great food. I don't know what we might explode. But check out our sponsors. Landers Ford over my shoulder, Poplar and Houston Levy, also Mount Moriah and 240. All of our sponsors. We're redoing the website. Clayton Turner in Americus, Georgia, a DGD, damn good dog, is building this website for us. We got Nigel out on the West Coast, executive producer Brendan Martin. So stay tuned to this channel. We got more great stuff coming. We have the best fans, best viewers, and the best audience, and we cannot thank you enough. Have a great day, everybody. I can't stop. I'm wound up.